welcome to my second episode of Yarns About Patterns, where I'm going to talk about all sorts of things yarncraft, some knitting projects, some pattern design progress, and some spinning. So I'm going to get right into it as well. Last time I waffled so much and I said so many times that it took me 4 whole work days to edit the video. I'm going to see if I've learned some lessons this time and try and keep it tight. I'm going to start off with some knitting progress. I'm a one project at a time knitter generally, so I'm going to show you the one project I've been working on, which I did kind of show off, but I'd only just cast this on last time. I think you can only see up to here, so I'm going to lift it up. Also, another thing I learned, lift it closer to the camera, closer. It's the cowl from the Glasgow University Knits book, and it is halfway done. At halfway, I've switched to new needles, which means that my old needles were free, which means that just today I've cast on a second knitting project at a time. This happens occasionally, but not very often. This is meant to carry on in pattern all the way, so I need to do twice the height. However, as expected, because I was using up yarn, I untangled these before I started the video, and I'm in a tangle now. I ran out of the black. That arrived a couple of days ago. So I have a new ball of black yarn. This is Colorina from Hobby. But the red is running out, and I don't want to buy a new ball of red yarn because I don't have much money. So what I'm going to do, this pattern will fold in on itself, and then the inside, because it's on smaller needles, will always be the inside, and it will never be seen. It's not reversible or anything. If they wanted, I think the designer, I actually get some pattern critiques. So the designer in the book wants something simple in the book. So they've just got a pattern that repeats all the way, and then you seal it up afterwards. If I were going to design this for me, and if I do this in future, I will convert it to double knitting, which is where you knit both sides at the same time in pattern, and it would be reversible. So on one side it would be red with a black pattern, on the other side it would be black with a red pattern, and you just knit that all at once. That's what I would have done in hindsight if I designed it. Maybe I'll do it sometime. I've got like a double knitting pattern idea, but not for a cowl. We'll see. It's more complicated. I make everything more complicated, and then I have to simplify it back down again because I want people to actually be able to do them. So yeah, that, very excited. Nearly done. I nearly forgot to say what I'm going to do on the middle instead is I'm just going to knit all with the black. So I'm going over the top of the cowl. I'll do like 5 rows. I'll do them in the colour pattern, and then I'll do the middle portion until the last 5 rows on the small needles in the colour work in black, and then I'll do the last 5 in colour work again. I have my tension as I've gone on. I was very sloppy at first, and my insides are not good, especially at first. So there is actually a bit of a taper to it already before I switched needles for the smaller gauge of the inside. That means also these needles are 2 steps down rather than 1 step down because I didn't have the correct needles, which means I'm going to switch back to the big needles when I get to the last 5 rows and start doing colour work again for the inside, just so that the difference between this loose edge and the final part of the inside is not so far apart that knitting them together is going to be, it's, you know, I want a smooth transition. It's meant to be a smooth loop. Again, double knitting wouldn't have had that problem, so now we know better for next time, as well as choosing more contrast next time. Next time will be a while away though. I do want to do another couple of patterns I mentioned from those books. There's a little pair of fingerless gloves that I would like to make into short fingered gloves. I prefer short fingered gloves because you can put a new pair over the top of them. I want to spin the yarn and make those, but I need to spin the yarn first, and we'll talk about spinning when we get to the spinning section. The second cast on I've done comes with a bit of a new acquisition, which is the next section we'll do. The second one is made with handmade, I'm reading this upside down, I don't know why, there's no reason. Handmade DK yarn, which was from Home Bargains. So it was about £3. They're 100 grams, 300 meters. And I'm doing the Melt the Ice hat, where the funds went to Minneapolis charities or community centres. All I've done is cast it on today. I cast it on about 3 times so I didn't have too long a tail, or too short a tail. I didn't bother doing any of the techniques that I know to count out how much fibre you need in advance for a long tail cast on. I used the German twisted cast on, I think that's what it's called. So I had learned a supposedly simpler method beforehand, and now I've been doing German twisted so much that I've forgotten the method I used to use, but it was one where you wrap around the thumb and scoop up. It's almost like continuously making, what do you call those? The Eye of Sauron. I like to call them slipknot. I call slipknots the Eye of Sauron. If you can see it, you can see it. Progress not very far. It will fit on my head, even on the needles, which worries me because then I think, well, it's probably too big. Although this first part is ribbing. I'm sure I probably messed up my very delicately arranged fringe here. First part is ribbing, so it'll tighten it up a bit, but it's 1x1 ribbing, so how much will it tighten it up? This isn't for me anyway, it's probably for people with slightly larger heads. Mine's on the slightly small side. I checked, because I had yarn options, and I checked with my flatmate which one he thought was better, and he agreed that this darker yarn was a nicer colour, even though the original hat is often in quite a bright red. I have bright red though. I went to the charity shop. Okay, so, acquisitions. I have barely even had money for food, and yet somehow I've managed to go to some charity shops and get some late Christmas gifts, which means I actually have, in addition to the yarn that I already mentioned, buying from Hobby, I got a few bits and bobs in a hobby sale. First of all, it was about £1.50 for the spooky bag, which is a Halloween style bag if you're not goth themed most of the time. I will be using this bag for storing projects in, so I just wanted a nice spooky bag. Additionally, in the sale, I picked up a couple of circulars in sizes I didn't have. So there were these 6.5 Knit Pros going. What is it? Knit Pro Trends. With these acrylic tips, which I thought might be interesting to try. 60 centimeters. These were £3 something, £3.50 perhaps. And then these circular needles are only 2.5 millimeters. And they were £1.25. So I threw them in the basket to make the postage worth it. That was my excuse. And then I saw something that I couldn't resist on sale. They seem to be really low in stock in general. I don't know if they're going to restock, but I have some of the thicker yarn. It is yarn of this, and it is Metallico Fine. So I've got quite large Metallico that I've used in projects before, in a sort of burgundy and a royal blue. This is black and got, so the fluff, the woolly fluff is black, and then the artificial fibre is gold, which I can do something with, and I'm thinking something lacy and maybe something double knit. I've been thinking, obviously this yarn pills a lot because it's so fluffy, and the shine when it's knitted isn't quite as intense as the shine when it's wound up on the ball either. I think if I get a similar weight fine black yarn and make a pattern or design someday, after I've got the belt pattern out, we'll get to pattern soon. If I make a design with this, I will match it up with something else so I've got more of it. I was thinking, oh, should I do leg warmers? And I wondered how much, because they might be good for not wear and tear, not getting wear and tear, and I might be able to just use these and do leg warmers. But I maybe want to get a bit more yarn, match it up, do something where it's a bit of this and a bit of that. And maybe that will stop the pilling being too bad. I don't know, I feel like it's already pilling on the ball. The more I touch it, I want to put it away. I might do a scarf or a cowl or hood. I feel like those won't get as much wear and tear, but a shawl might get wear and tear from bad bags, depending on what kind of shawl and how you wear it. So a shawl's a maybe. I think there would be enough for a shawl paired up with something else. Maybe. And I don't think gloves, I don't think jumper, I don't think socks. I don't think it's suitable for that at all. So it's a lovely yarn and I wish I could use it for everything. And perhaps parts of a jumper would be okay. Or if you're just okay with having a fluffy jumper that pills. I don't think so. I'm going to accessorize, I'm going to think about that one. This is actually going into a stash, which I don't have much of, but there is a vague plan forming around it, I promise. At charity shop, I picked up, as I hinted at, some yarn. So this is just acrylic yarn. It's DK. It's I've lost the label. I think it's broken off. Here it is. Stylecraft Special Double Knit, 100 grams. Premium acrylic. It is the right colour for another Melt the Ice hat. In fact, I might be able to get at least one out of this and perhaps two out of the other colour. I'm going to see how it goes. Exciting stuff. I think they'll be pretty easy and quick to knit up. It's already really fun to do the ribbing. It's going to be less fun when I have to go to magic loop and I can't just go round and around in a circle. I'll probably slow down then. In fact, I'll probably do the ribbing on the hat and then switch back to the cowl and finish up the cowl and then switch back to the hats and maybe do another hat straight afterwards, maybe start something else. I'm not sure yet, depends how I get on with my spinning. We're getting there. I'm still on acquisitions, so that was at the charity shop. Another thing I've got at the charity shop, which I have to dive for. Oh, there's more. So, another thing from the charity shop. I got some sewing patterns. This one's quite chunky. So I went through, there was a nice box of sewing patterns and I went through loads and loads and I was thinking, what will I wear? Well, one that I will wear is, hopefully you can see that, because it's very similar in drape to what I'm wearing here as a shawl. And also it's got trousers in it and a skirt in it, both of which I would happily wear. And I would especially like a good pattern for trousers if I could make myself lots of pairs of work trousers, because that is going to be quite necessary soon. I'm starting my new part-time job soon. More yarn. And this, I like a coat with shaping. So a pattern that helps me to do that is wonderful. And the collar I'm not super keen on. I prefer maybe a raised or stiff like little collar. But the rest of it's really nice and I like the shape. So I could adapt it if I ever get good enough. Could make one of these and then figure out how to make a better one, or just make one of these with a smaller collar. Or a more open collar, something that I could show off cowls or use cowls instead. I would need fabric for this, so I would also need a sewing machine because I'm not in Finland anymore and I cannot go to the library and hire out a sewing machine at the library sewing machines. There will be second-hand ones around that I can buy. While I'm in this temporary room, we've switched from giraffes to mustangs. While I'm in this temporary room, I'm not going to be getting myself a sewing machine or starting up any of the sewing projects. My other sewing projects that are on hold are in someone's attic in a different country, far to the south. We'll get there. More from the charity shops. I couldn't resist picking these up. They are King Cole Indulge Chunky, it says. I don't think that's chunky. I think that's somewhere between, well, maybe it's Aran. I don't know if they wash and puff out, so these need a definite swatch. 2 100 grams. Are they the same dye lot? Yes, same dye lot. Shade 2451 Quartz. I love the ermine look of these. It's a slightly faded white. It's a slightly sort of grey, maybe a touch of brown. I don't know if it's just the label's brown that's suggesting that to me. With little bits of, I think it's polyester, so it's 70% acrylic, 9% alpaca, 21% polyester. So the alpaca is the really soft fluff on the outside. I'm assuming the 21% polyester is the little black dashes, and then the acrylic is the core yarn. So if you press on it, the core yarn is a bit stiff. So I'm wondering, but the fluff, if you just rub it, is very soft. So I'm wondering how it's going to knit up. But for this, I was thinking of making some kind of a hood pattern with a faux ermine, suggestion of ermine ridge or edge. I thought maybe it could be fully lined, but I'm not sure there's enough for that. And I'm also not sure, I think I'd do like an itch test, because I think it might just be annoying if it were fully lined. So just the outside could be nice. So that's another long term, I justified it by thinking up a pattern to use it for, added to the stash from the charity shop. The things I got from the charity shop, despite one being acrylic, I put in the freezer for a week, and they are now safe. I believe that is everything I got from oh no. I got some beads and some chain. Again, for sewing projects and repairs, or maybe jewellery projects in case of the chain later on. I used to have a lot of these supplies before I moved away from Finland, and I couldn't bring them with me, so I donated them to a friend who has been using them. I have a skirt that needs these things. I also got the skirt from a charity shop, and I did buy some to repair it. They weren't exactly the right gold colour in some cases. So when I saw these, I decided I will pick up these little beads. I also ordered some beads for my belt pattern that I'm going to release very soon. I will move on to talk about that soon then, because I'm still showing you acquisitions, and there were so many for a broke person. My friends sent me really sweet late Christmas gift, because I'd given them some knitted stuff and they spoiled me in return, absolutely over the top. They did not need to go that far, spoiled me in return, and I am very grateful. I'm very excited as well. It was just pure candy shop when I opened the packet. One thing I got was this nice little portable knit craft kit. It's got cable needles in, which I actually don't own any cable. It's stitch holders, it's got tweezers, it's got darning needles, sewing needles, it has measuring tape, stitch markers, yet more stitch markers, lockable ones, and some needle stoppers. Exciting stuff. I can carry that around with me. I haven't cracked it open yet. I've not used it yet, but I will be using these stitch markers to mark how far I'm going through the cowl inside when I change to just plain black. And I've got to move some stuff out of this because it was storing something. Hint, hint. A yarn bowl. This is brilliant because I'm going to be doing plying soon with lots of different yarns from my spinning. and they can go through the holes, and then they can sit in here and they can get plied. Exciting. Can't wait to try it out. I've never used one. As you may have noticed by me picking out my projects earlier, it just got big messes. I'm used to dealing with that. This is gonna tidy me up a little bit when I use it. And it didn't stop there. I've also missed one charity shop item that is gonna help me with the spinning. I'll skip back to that. I'm pointing at you, I'm so rude. It's a yarn winder. So it's a tiny little yarn winder, and it was £3.25, and they had a big, so someone from one of the knitting groups I've been going to had texted me saying, hey, go to this charity shop on this road, they have a basket full of yarn winders, and so they did. They also have a small stand of wool that's direct marketed wool, which is good to know. It's all Aran weight, I think. I'm not doing much Aran weight at the moment. Last and certainly not least from the yarn related gift is, it's in a bag and I'm leaving it in the bag because it will be a while before I make anything with this. There is some beautifully soft acrylic viscose tweedy burnt orange yarn. I was thinking, what am I going to make with this? Again, it comes to either something for the neck or leg warmers. I've got two of these. I don't think it's going to be enough for, I don't feel like I want a shawl made out of it. I am thinking I'm going to do some kind of cabling maybe. Perhaps something that fills up the gap in my blazer. The orange will be really good with the brown of my jacket. And I think that might be a nice fit for my clothing and wardrobe. It could also be a pattern that I sell one day. So that is also now in the stash for pattern design. So that's 3 things that are in the stash for later pattern designs that are perhaps simpler patterns than my big ambitions, which I am not ready for. In addition to the yarny gifts, I got some cute other gifts. Last time I showed you my notebook stash, I got another notebook. It's got a dragon and dragon scales. I love dragons and they know it. What a great gift. This one I'm going to save for D&D campaigns, and I'll be taking notes in the dragon notebook. And there's a little book behind me called Spice. It's by Roger Crowley. That is the history of the spice wars where the Portuguese were going around to Indonesia and other countries as well, and what they all got up to there with their colonialism. I have been busy doing what I said I would do and learning to spin on my Turkish drop spindle this new year, 2026. I did the rainbow sample that I was given along with the drop spindle by Wood U. I put some pictures up of this. I don't know if I'll put them up here or not. Let's see how adventurous I am in my video editing this time. It is very thick and thin, very, very wobbly. It's all over the place. Barely twisted in some places, more twisted in others. But I did it, and it got better. The first singles I did, it was so all over the place. But the second one I did, I was starting to get the hang of it already. I went to bed, I woke up, I did another one, and it went so much better. Obviously plying it together, it's lost some of that progress because I put the better one with the worst one, and now I just have this little mini skein, which I am saving and treasuring. Maybe one day I will make just some fabric panels with my early lumpy experiments in when it comes to spinning yarn. Speaking of the spindle, I have it right here with a spin on it. This is the start of the final third of one of the 2 fibres. Well, this is the colourful fibre in the bubble crepe yarn attempt that I am doing. So I have spun up half of the grey. I've not spun what I said I was going to spin. I've spun up half of the grey, and you can see I've overspun it intentionally on advice, but I don't know if, I think I might have overspun it. So it's all merino, but this grey actually went better, and as I went along, you can see, maybe, it gets thinner, but there are still some really big fat bits, which is, it's meant to be thin. It's meant to go along the outside of the beautiful, I know they are beautiful. So these are all World of Wool, but this one I got from the yarn shop. This one I got direct. I was at the knitting night and I saw this and it wasn't too expensive, and I treated myself because I wanted to do a bubble yarn. And now, if you can hear my stomach rumbling, please ignore it. It is beautiful, it is big, but it was so hard to spin, and because it's so big, I've done 2 batches already, and I still have 1 more batch to go. I had to get, like, this Turkish spindle is not huge, the stick very small, it's for beginners. I've taken the hook off, the hook was driving me mad. I have some videos of me trying to spin this, and they may be overlaying right now. So this is proving I'm having to start it because even with pre-drawing, so the first one I didn't pre-draw too much. The second one I did lots of pre-drafting. I had to. And then I had to stop, start a lot because I wasn't getting even twist and I wasn't getting even thickness. And somehow it was much worse in this than with the grey merino, that I was pulling it thin and it would be okay, and then suddenly it would all pull at once, like in a sudden movement. There was no like gently drawing it out. It felt like it was trying to stick to itself and cling to itself so much more. I mentioned actually the wonderful Brian, Wool to Gold, I mentioned my progress, and he said, oh, is it lanolin or is it slightly felted? And it's definitely not lanolin, but maybe in the shop it got a bit bashed about and it got slightly felted, because it's been a nightmare and I've just not been able to smoothly spin and keep spinning without too wild a result where it was breaking because it was not, for some reason the twist doesn't go into the thick parts at all, and I don't know, I think it might be because overall I'm working with a bigger thickness, so that the ratio of thick to thin is so much more pronounced from when it does go thin, and then all the twist gathers there, and then when it's thick the staple length is slightly shorter. I've recorded it all in the notebook that I said I was going to use. And it's just, yeah, it falls off a lot more. It's like there's a bit here that's like barely twisted and it's so fat, and none of these have been washed. I was considering washing the grey before I started because of the overspinning. I'm worried that even though I've got to spin them the other way now and ply them together and then spin them back again with the third piece of grey that I have to spin. I was really worried that I've overspun too much on the grey and I would get all these little, I think they're called pigtails. And then I decided, no, this is me learning. If I have a bubble crepe that doesn't look very bubble crepey because I've not been consistent enough and some of the grey is too fat and some of the purple is too thin, that's okay. And if I have little pigtails on the grey, that's okay. It's just another lumpy art yarn to go in my art yarn scarf. I did not finish this before this video. It's been about a month. I've been incredibly busy. It takes an entire day's worth of spinning to do, well, it took just one for the grey and then it took one for each of these purple ones. I've got one more purple one to do and one more grey to do. And then I have to ply, which is going to be really hard. Well, actually, I've got one more purple to do, then I have to ply, then I have to do the final grey, then I have to ply again. So in another month, I think I'll get my second, technically third spin done. And then we can see what it looks like and how bubble crepe it is after a wash, where I imagine it's going to bloom out and be absolutely humongous. It's going to be so big. It's going to be so chunky. Chunky. It's yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm still enjoying it. It's, you know, it's, I don't know, just the learning, the tactile learning of spinning. I'm really loving it. I am looking forward to getting different spindles already from the Turkish. I love making the turtles where you wrap it around and you have a spun up ball, but as you can see, anyway, I'm turning things into skeins. And then the yarn winder I got from the charity shop is going to come in handy to make little balls again, so I can ply it. And then I can put them in the bowl. I can put them in the bowl, which again will be exciting. I am going to have to split the grey yarn into 3 because it's much longer. So in order to fit when I'm plying them onto the spindle, I'm going to have to ply with the grey yarn as far as one batch of this will go. And then I'm going to have to snip it, and then I'm going to have to do the second batch and the third batch. And I'm going to have to do the same with the Z-twisted ply when I then ply in the other direction with the other part of the grey yarn. I'm going to have to do it in 3 batches, and I'm just going to have 3 little nuggets of bubble crepe art yarn that I will have to join if I use them in anything and tie, like sew in the ends, and we'll just leave them, who knows. That is just how it's going to have to be, because on this spindle, which is quite short, I cannot get a big ball. This is quite very chunky yarn. As I get better and my yarn gets a bit more even, and I can overall reduce the size to at most Aran, because generally I'm not going to use anything bigger than Aran, and I'm mostly going to want to use DK or sock making yarn in my knitting. So that's what I eventually have to be able to know how to make if I want to make things for projects. Like I want a sock weight yarn to make the glove project. My current gloves, which I wear all the time, keep getting plucked, and I repaired several pluck holes in them the other day, only to, while I was casting on the Melt the Ice hat, I kept catching the little thumb brioche bit that I have, and then I noticed, oh, I've plucked a new hole in it. Now I have to repair those as well. It'll be really nice to have another pair to wear while they're being washed or repaired, so that my hands don't get cold. I just sat staring into space for a moment thinking, what was I going to talk about? I thought there was something else, and of course it's the patterns. I managed to block out and to sew together quite a bit of the crochet project. It turns out I spent a full 7-hour sewing session. It turns out that's only about 1/3 of what I'll need, so I've got a lot of crocheting to do. It's definitely going to be a next year pattern, especially as I mentioned last week, I want to do all the variants. Not much more to report on the crochet then. Focusing on the knitting pattern, I downloaded Affinity, and this is the Canva free software, but it's also essentially modelled on Adobe InDesign, but without any of the rubbish of the subscriptions and being overpriced. You can download it for free, and I'm now doing a nice layout because it's got a layout mode, and you can switch smoothly between photo editing mode, vector art mode, and layout mode, which means I'm going to be able to make all the diagrams in situ for, you know, pictures of. I've made some tables. Got a nice table tool. I've made some nice tables to do with the sizes of the belt. I've made a nice front cover with the photos that I did a photo shoot. My friend helped me take them. I'm just quite excited about how well that's going. I need probably another 2 full work days to get everything down, all the measurements up. There's I think the biggest challenge right now in writing that pattern is the sizing tables. So I've got 2 different size options, so I've got 2 different tables for them. And then the tables show yarn weight versus needle size, each one. and as people report in, if they want to, what size they have used, I am going to be able to slowly fill out the table and update the document. And then everybody can see that information, is the plan someday as time goes on. But for now, the ones that I make will go in. And I've made one where it's DK held double, which is Aran. And I want to make another Aran one, but with beads. And see how that goes. I also ordered with the beads some little experimental things for a different kind of closing method. Because right now, I close it by tying it. Some people might not want that rustic thing, so I'm going to experiment with another way and see how it goes. It may or may not be included in the pattern. That needs me to buy some Aran weight yarn, the stuff I mentioned last week from the knit shop. There's stuff in the right colour. I've now got 2 options of beads, round and square, in a nice contrasting colour, on their way in the post. So I can start that perhaps after I've done the cowl and the hat. I can actually start doing a second belt, but with beads, which I'm very excited for because I haven't actually knit beads into my yarn before, and I am really hoping the advice that I got on the internet to get 4mm beads to use with Aran is going to work. But I'll find out, and that's all part of the learning fun of writing patterns. So that's pattern news. I need to edit this video. I need to keep it short. Last time I talked for an hour and a half. I had to cut out half an hour of absolute just what was on my mind and how stressed I was, and nothing to do with yarn. And then I had to I cut down 200 ohms per hour. I had a 200 ohm per hour rate, which I cut down to 9 ohms. And I'm hoping I've done a little bit better this time, gained a little bit more self-awareness. I know there are some points here where I've realised I've gone wrong and I've paused, and I'm going to have to edit them and cut them together. It's still not going to be smooth sailing, but I'm hoping I've kept this video to a nicer length so that it doesn't take me 4 whole work days to edit, and therefore I can get it out sooner. Also, I've already done the title sequence and the ending sequence once. If I can just copy those in, and then I won't have to worry about doing them, from scratch. So that might be a bit speedier. I'm not sure if you're interested in. I hope you're like, oh, how is a YouTube video made? That's why this is at the end though. The next thing is I need to figure out how to get the subtitle files to work, and then also retroactively do that for the previous video because YouTube didn't want to do it automatically. I apologize. So that's on my to-do list for the videos. And also how to do chapter segments, and I need to do that for the previous video as well, if possible. That's all from me this time. Again, I'll try to be back in 2 to 4 weeks, possibly 4 weeks, very busy starting a new job. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming along. Thank you for listening if you've listened. Let me know if, the usual thing, let me know what you're working on. Have you ever spun yarn? Do you have any tips and advice on why one of my merino spins is harder to draft than the other? Have you ever made a bubble crepe yarn? Do you even know what I'm talking about? If not, you'll see later in another video. Hopefully the next one. Unless the next video is a pattern release video. It's going to be either or. The next one may be pattern release video, which will be separate to a vlog video. Or it may be the next vlog, and then the pattern release will hopefully be very soon. Try and get that out by summer. Right, see you next time, I hope. Bye. That'll be quite fun. You didn't hear that. Future plans. And now, some yarn.